Welcome back. You're still watching Fut-Afrique. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us. Remember the trivia question? Make sure that you hop onto social media and you do answer it. For now, though, let's turn our attention to women's football because it's that part of the show where Jessica Bokamusongoma and myself have the conversation. And this week, it's about the CAF Olympic Women's Qualifiers that are set to take place. It's 4 teams that remain, but only 2 can book their ticket to go to Paris. That sounds very cringeworthy. It's nerve-wracking, in fact. I think that's the right word, not cringeworthy. Nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking for the 4 of the best teams in Africa contending for 2 spots. It's tough times for all the 4 teams. Yeah,
no, it becomes really weird. But before we get into that, let's talk about the news coming in locally. When the Hollywood Bet Super League started this season, a lot of people said, what changes is Coach Dunga coming with? Others were against her, saying that, did she get rid of the twins? Why did they leave? It looks like they had better plans.
They were cooking behind the scenes. We see the move for an international move for Itumuleng, who's the twin to Spumelele, who walked away with top goal scorer of the season at the Hollywood Bets Award. These twins have really been dominating in the local space. I think a lot of people are actually familiar with them. And Itumuleng moves to a team that we are very familiar with in the South African region because we know Leandra Smurda came from that team. Nolitando Vilakazi, who's currently at TS Galaxy, came from that team, as well as Jermaine Siopasenwe. So it's a team that's definitely given growth to a lot of international experience for our players. And I think she will cement herself well because she does actually give her best when she's performing on the field.
Well, there's definitely something in the Hollywood Bet Super League if you do have a sister. Specifically if you have a twin. I mean, we've got the Klasane.
Yes, sisters.
Obviously, she's alone now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then we also now have the Shamasa sisters, where you go on to do bigger and better things, which is absolutely phenomenal to see. Now, we do know that the qualifiers for the Olympics are set to take place really soon. It's the last leg, so this is the part where you don't want to mess it up. When it comes to South Africa's Banyana, we go up against a head coach that we know quite well, Coach Waldrum. This is for the Nigerian Super Falcons. Coach Desiree Ellis. Has a bit of nickels in her team, and she had to make some switches.
And this is the part about football, that you may select a squad that you are very certain and sure that is going to basically face the opponent. However, at camp, things happen, medical things happen, people go into injuries, and now you have to bring in new players. So you must be very well aware of the pool of players that are available to come and replace. So Andile Dlamini unfortunately also suffers a medical condition, and she now has to step out. But now she's replaced by well-known players that we know of, Dineo Makagula, who is from TS Galaxy, as well as Rigel Ngobeni from UWC. So strong players that we know that we are losing Andile. However, she's being replaced by good goalkeepers that have really did well for themselves. Promise Selane, very young, dominant in her space, also now has to be replaced by Mabatu Mogale, who we know from last year at Tax. She did exceptionally well, and she's cementing herself very well at JVW, and I think she's going to...
She does not pull out of a battle, by the way.
No, she does not, and this is her first senior national call-up. We've seen her doing wonders at under-17 as well as under-20, and now this is her first senior call-up, and I know that she's going to do very well in her position. But we are replacing ammunition with ammunition.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the question then would be, are we replacing them at the right time? Obviously, I did say that these are matches that you can't mess up. Some of them it will be the first time if they do get the starting 11 call-up. Is this the right place to make those changes and the right time?
My opinion, it's not. It's very tricky because when you want to introduce new players, it's more safer to introduce them during friendlies where you've got nothing to lose besides experience. It also gives them an opportunity to gel in with the team quicker. We only get a few weeks of camp, and we know that the international players also join camp a little bit late. So you haven't really grasped with the entire team. So to be thrown into a match where we know we are facing, the African queens who are doing so well might be a little bit of a bad timing.
We can call them former African queens right now.
Yes, we can, because we are currently the champions. However, I think the timing of it is going to be tricky. Obviously, they want to show up. They want to, prove to the world that they deserve to be there. But there's a lot of things that happen, stage fright and, understanding your opponents. Most of these core players have played against these queens or these players from different countries for the longest of time to know their style of play and how they operate. When a player is new, hasn't faced those kind of players or teams, or hasn't played continental football per se before, it's very difficult. So I'm just hoping that...
Start there.
Let's start there, exactly. But I really do believe in the girls. And I mean, if we don't, maybe perhaps if you don't start them in the starting 11, that might help them. Bring them in, introduce them at the halftime, especially if you can see that we need them. Because some of them can really come as super subs and we can see different, results.
Yeah, well, they're there because they deserve to be there. It's a big stage. We go up against Nigeria's Super Falcons. But one thing, and another thing, before we move on actually, is the experience of the Super Falcons, right? I don't know how they'll be as a unit, but if you look at the team, the list of players that have been called into their squad, most of them don't even play in Nigeria.
Yes, and that's the tricky part about it. Perhaps that's an advantage that Banyana might have. Predominantly, most of our players in the squad are players that play together.
Gelling-wise would be.
The gelling-wise would be an advantage because we know our style of play. With them, it's literally just that moment at camp to put them together. They play for different clubs, and most of them don't even play in the same leagues to actually understand this team plays this way. So we might have an advantage when it comes to that. But because they play on an international level, which is a higher level than Hollywood Bets, most of the teams that they play for, we know Plumtree came from a very
that
big
could be
team,
a threat.
That could be a threat. So I think when it comes to our international players and their international players, obviously they're dominant and they have a bigger number of them playing overseas than we do.
Well, it could be an open book. That's how I see it. Let's talk about now as to where CAF 1 and CAF 2 are set to be placed. As we know that Zambia, Morocco, Nigeria and South Africa are the remaining four, but two of them will be named CAF 1 and CAF 2. Which pool will they slot into for these qualifiers?
So in Group B, we are going to see either Zambia or Morocco joining USA, Germany and Australia. Then in Group C, we're going to either see Banyana, which I do believe we'll see Banyana, or Nigeria joining in Group C, and they're going to be grouped with Spain, Japan and Brazil. Tough teams for both the groups, hey?
Well, tough teams, and there's so much to play for, but it's all going to be battled out amongst two legs. So all four of these teams will have two matches. They'll have a home match and a away match.
Correct.
And I hope the South Africans come out within their numbers and we support our queens as we book that ticket to go to the Olympics. Make sure that you go nowhere, because that's where, actually, you have to go somewhere, because that's where we end the show. I thought the conversations were continuing. They do say the time flies when you're having fun.